Trendlines, one of the most powerful tools you can have in your trading toolbox. The amazing thing about Trendlines is they are very simple and very powerful, but you need to understand how to use them. My trading journey has been up to 5 years already, and still to this day, the trend line is what helps me get my entries and exits within the market. Now, where the trend lines are very powerful, and I want to show you this in the video, they help you understand when trends are changing. The second thing where they are very powerful is they tell you when to take your trades. They have the ability of showing you timing to allow you to not get into trades too early and get yourself blown up, but to actually wait until the market is ready to give you money. By knowing this, you're no longer gonna waste time entering and exiting to try get your positions. You are going to be trading at the correct time when the market is ready to give you the trades. So guys, now let's jump into the video. Let's get you to be a master of the trend lines. And by having this simple, powerful tool in your toolbox, you're truly setting yourself up for a successful trading journey. Guys, welcome to the Sniper Trading channel. I'm Sheldon the Sniper. I've been trading up to 5 years. I was a carpenter before this. And when I started my journey, everything looked like science. I was watching so many YouTubers trying to understand what this all meant. And it actually confused me. I lost a lot of money in the beginning and a lot of time too. And then I got to a certain point where I never had a backup. I needed to learn how to trade. And I started to get very simple. In school, I did technical drawing, and it taught me to draw lines, 40 degrees, 45 degree lines. And when I was looking at the candles, I was seeing something pretty clear, that when a token was moving down, it was making these lower highs. And if I drew a line and it started to break, it started to go up. And when it broke the bottom line, it started to go down. And I started a very simple trend line strategy. And to this day, it's still the #1 tool that I use. The reason is because it doesn't predict the market. It just tells you when the market is changing. A lot of people try predict the market. They try force the market into trades. The market is what it is. It's gonna offer you money every hour, every day, and it's not about predicting, it's about moving with the market. And this is the journey that I want to take you guys on, is to show you that trading is all about simplicity. Don't complicate it, just keep a simple strategy. Whenever you're entering, you want low risk, high reward. And if you take 1 or 2 losses, who cares? Because your 1 win is worth multiple losses. And as long as you stick to these rules, you will be a successful trader. Now guys, you're here on the new channel, and I want to give you an opportunity to be a part of the family. So go and subscribe below. And what this also means is it will qualify you for something called Sniper Bags. What this is, guys, is I'm trading my accounts a lot in my own time. As I'm making capital, I put them into these bags. And these bags are 10 bags filled of USDT, which means that when we reach 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to be choosing 10 people to give this away. To qualify, subscriber of this channel. And the second thing is to open a BloFin trading exchange. Link below in the description. These guys are partners with the channel. And to be honest, one of the best crypto exchanges in the world. So guys, now let's talk about trend lines. What they do is they track trends. So let's look at this chart over here. You can see that this token is moving to the upside. But if you actually break down what is happening, you're seeing something very clear. The token is making higher lows and higher highs. And what that means is there is pushes to the upside and down, but ultimately the token is moving in the upwards direction. And it's the same thing if the market's going in a downwards direction. What you are seeing is you are seeing lower highs and lower lows. Therefore, the token's going up and down, but ultimately it's moving in the downwards direction. And the third is sideways. The token's not breaking highs, it's not breaking lows, it is just going sideways. Now that we have that information, let's go back to the upwards trend. And what you could see here is higher highs, higher lows. And where a trend line becomes very powerful in an upwards angle is by putting one trend line at the bottom of this move. And what that means is it's showing you that we want to track the higher lows. Therefore, if this token wants to continue moving to the upside, it's going to continue making higher lows. And by us tracking that, we're not predicting, we are just seeing that this token wants to continue moving to the upside. Until what happens? The line decides to break. What the market is then indicating is this token possibly wants to pull back or slow down and actually change the trend of the token. Therefore, what usually happens when you break these trends is from going from a higher low type of momentum, we start to move into a lower low momentum. Now, we're starting to get signs of lower highs and lower lows. Therefore, if the lower highs start to play out, you can put one trend line at the top of these lower highs, which is saying for as long as we stay below this line, the token's going to continue to make lower highs. Until what happens? The token decides to break the trend. Something is starting to change. So ultimately, trend lines are just moving with the markets. Now, to teach you guys a little bit of terminology, let's go back to the upwards trend. That line that is at the bottom, tracking the higher lows, this is known as support. And what it basically means is every time we go to these areas, there's buying power. Therefore, the token is continuing and keeping the momentum. So supports are known as a very important line not to break. And if it breaks, you need to understand that the token's now changing trend. When we start to change trend and we start to go to the downwards angle or the sideward angle, the top trend line is known as resistance. This is where sellers are trying to keep price down. So for as long as we stay below the trend and cannot get through it, this is known as resistance. So to keep it very simple, lines on top where selling pressure is sitting is known as resistances. Lines at the bottom is supports. Now let's jump to a very important part on trend lines. How do I know which one to draw, right? And in order to know this, you need to know the strength of the trend line. You need to set yourself up for success, giving yourself the best chance to be correct. In order to do that, you need a strong trend line. So let's speak about strength of trend lines. If you find a line that has 2 touches, it's an average trend. It means that you have a 50-50 chance of this actually playing out. As in the past of this trend, you only have 2 touches. You don't have much data to say, okay, this is a strong trend. So when you're looking for strong trends, you're looking for more touches. If you find a trend line with 3 touches, that gives you up to a 60% chance of actually being correct. If you find one with 4 touches, that's a 70% chance of being correct. And 5 or more touches gives you up to an 80% chance of being correct. So there are so many possibilities of where to draw your trend lines. So the easiest way to find the best trend line is the one that has the most touches. So if you look at this chart over here, which is showing us an uptrend, and I'm drawing a line at the bottom, I can have a 2 touch, I can have a 3 touch, a 4 touch, a 5 touch. Which one will be the most important to me is the one that has the higher touch ratio. Because I know if this has been tracking 4 or 5 higher lows, and all of a sudden we start to break that, there's a very high probability that the token is changing trend and coming to the downside. So this means I am very stingy when it comes to opening trades. I don't look for 2-touch trend lines. If I want to trade, I go look through my favorite tokens every day. And if I want to long the market, which means I want to buy into the market, I want to find a trend that is at least 3 to 5 touches. When I find that, that's the token I want to trade for the day. Does not matter if I love Solana or Cardano. If Doge is the one that is presenting me the strong trend, that's the highest probability of me winning. And it works the same way where, let's say I've entered the token and the token moves to the upside, right? And now it's moving and it touches the trend line once, then touches it the second time, the third time, I still have my position open. And all of a sudden we start to break the trend. This gives me a great signal to take some profits. So not only does this become a powerful tool when it comes to entering trades, it also helps you understand how long should I keep the trade open. And that's all on moving with the momentum, because what tends to happen is if a token is moving fast to the upside, it's going to continue moving fast. The moment it starts to slow down, that is when we start to reverse. And that's why the trend line will give you that early sign. So now let's jump onto the charts. I'm going to go through many different tokens and I'm going to draw these lines and show you guys the mentality of where I would enter trades, where I would put my stop loss, and how will I use a very simple tool as Trendlines to actually trade. Now I want to explain a few things to you. So here we have a Bitcoin chart. On the top hand side here, we have time frames. Now guys, time frames are very important to understand because they're basically showing you different data. So if you are looking to day trade, I want to make money today. You don't really care what price is going to do in the future. You want to know, should I long or should I short today? And what that means is you need to know the time frames. So if you look at this, we're on the 1 hour time frame, which means that every candle here that is printed is 1 hour for them to form. And ultimately, there'll be 24 of them in one daily candle. So what this means is if I'm looking to make money for the next couple of hours, let's say today I want to make money, I will very much use time frames as in the 15 minutes or the 1 hour, because they are giving me the correct data to make money today. Should I be longing? Should I be shorting? It does not matter what the daily is saying. However, if I want to trade once a month, then the daily is very powerful. So it's so important to know your time frames, because if you are catching a daily trend breakout, that means it can go up for a couple of days. So maybe you want to take a higher time frame trade and hold this for a little bit longer versus the 15 minutes breaker trend that's only going to be valid for the next hour or two. So by knowing the difference will give you an understanding of how long do you want to hold the actual trades. So here what we have is a very basic diagram to just give you an understanding of time frames. 15 minutes to 1 hour is what I use to day trade. 4 hour to daily is what I use to swing trade. And if I want to do a little bit more of an investment approach, then I will use the weekly or the monthly time frames. Now let's jump in. So I'm going to work off the 1 hour and I want to do a couple of drawings here for you guys just to explain what exactly are we doing with trends. So when you see a token is moving to the upside, you can see very clearly it is making the higher lows and the higher highs. Now, instead of me sitting here and drawing all of this, a trend line helps me identify, right? If I look at this, I put one trend at the bottom, and as long as that token holds that trend, it's indicating to me we are making higher lows. Therefore, if I've maybe bought and I'm holding a token, I can hold it for as long as it holds this trend line. And when it breaks the trend line is when it's telling me, oh, for the first time, we are now going to make lower lows, lower highs. Therefore, I want to exit and take profits within the trade. As well as if I'm not in the trade and I want to short, I don't want to short something that's strong. But when it starts to weaken itself and it shows me that little clue and sign over there, this could be the time for me to short the token. And what will tend to happen is it will then tend to start dropping. Okay, and as it's dropping, it's making the lower highs and the lower lows. And if I put one trend line at the top of this, for as long as it wants to continue down, the trend line is telling me it's going to continue. But the moment that it starts to break, it's telling me, hey, things are starting to shift. So by putting a line at the bottom and a line at the top, gives me a very basic understanding where the token's at and if there is a trade available. Now, the next thing that's important is I want to show you how things can speed up, and it's important to track the speed up. So what that means is if you look at the normal market cycle, tokens will tend to start off slow and speed up. And when they tend to speed up is usually when we get near the end. So when you see a token is speeding up, it's very important to track that momentum, because the moment that momentum stops gives you an opportunity for a possible trade. And it's the same thing when the token's going down and speeds up. You want to track that. So let me show you what I mean. If a token is now moving to the upside like this, and you have your bottom trend line in, that's the current momentum. But now the token decides to increase its momentum and it decides to start moving faster to the upside. It's very important then to take the trend and to track that to the upside. Again, which trend? The most touches is the best trend. And what you are doing now is you're sitting with two trend lines. The one is tracking the new momentum and the other is tracking the old momentum. And if you see that we start to move up and break this line, it's very likely we're going to start coming down to this line. And if it bounces and breaks the top line, it's then ready to start going up again. So it's all about not predicting, but just making sure you're keeping track of the momentum. And at any point it decides to increase, you are tracking that and you're looking for the sign of weakness. So again, you're using support and resistance trend lines to just keep an understanding of the momentum. Now let's speak about a different scenario. Now we start to move up and then we start to go sideways. Now what this means is sometimes when a token is moving to the up or the downside, it will have these little pauses in between. So it'll go aggressive to the upside, it'll slow down, go sideways, and then go up again. And these are known as continuation patterns. So many people will speak about the candlestick patterns. Trend lines are a great way to actually understand what pattern is in play. So if this token was moving to the upside, and it decided to then go sideways, it broke your trend. You decided, okay, I'm going to exit the trade now. I'm going to sit on some cash and wait for the next opportunity. As price goes sideways, what it's doing is it's giving you structure to actually pay attention to the sidewaysness, because in the sidewaysness, it's preparing for a bigger move. So what you want to do is you want to draw the bottom line and you want to draw the top line. Now the key is not to predict which one it's going to break, but you are tracking it. And the moment that it then decides to break the top, it's going to start moving up again. Perfect time to get an entry and put a stop loss below. Or it decides to break the bottom trend. Perfect time to short the market and put a stop loss. As it's going down, you have an idea of where you want to take profits, but you always have an emergency trend in, and either it breaks the trend or hits your TP, you're then getting out and possibly preparing for the long. So as you can see, we are just moving with the market. Now, the next thing that's very important before we start charting actual tokens is to show you how trend lines become a very powerful timing tool, right? Very powerful. And what this does is you got to realize is there is a cycle that plays out every day. Doesn't matter what time frames you're on, the market has a cycle. And again, it's this cheat sheet here. When you see something is dropping, what tends to happen is it tends to go sideways after it's dropped. Because in the drop, you saw panic, you saw people basically flying out because they're worried about money going down. Then what happens is it bounces and it tends to go sideways. And this is known as the depression phase. Once you get through this phase, then the token starts to move to the upside again. It starts to go into the exciting emotions, into the hope, the excitement, and things start to shift up. But the important thing that I said there was there's this slowdown period. So what tends to happen when a token is going to bounce or it's going to come down, right, is we tend to have a slowdown period. And this is where trend lines become very powerful, because the slowdown period is there to take your money. And this is the important thing, right? The slowdown period is the hardest point to enter trades because the market chops. So for example, if a token was moving up and then crashed, it does this. And this is where you can make a lot of errors. This is where you could buy incorrect, you can get stopped out multiple times, and you can just give away a lot of money because the market is designed to do that. Once it's flushed you out, then it goes up again. Comment below, how many times do you get stopped out and then the market goes up after, right? Or how many times do you get stopped out and then stopped out and stopped out and stopped out, and then the moment you stop, market goes up again. Market knows this. So the market plays the sideways to trap you out. Now, this is where trend lines become very powerful. So if you see that a token is moving to the upside and all of a sudden it does this, and it drops, right? This is where trends become very powerful for me. It's because when we actually dropped this trend, we dropped the bottom trend line, things started to speed up. We definitely made a lower low, right? But we had an initial momentum. And the initial momentum, you see these two tops here. This is the initial momentum that it was doing before it actually dropped. And as you could see, the moment we drop, there's this space to the trend line. Now in this period, I call it the bear phase. This is where they want to take your money. This is where ultimately that will chop, 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 chop. Okay, you will lose a bunch of money, and the moment you're done, it will start to move up. The trend line tells you this. If you look at this now and put this trend line in, and you see, okay, the time is now 4 o'clock right now. And it tells me that if I look closer to the trend, 10 o'clock tonight is when we should possibly be breaking the trends. Do you know how accurate this is? It's telling you, don't waste the next 6 hours of your time giving money to the markets. Wait, let it chop. And when it comes to your trend line again, and it comes here, and then it goes here, and then it breaks, that is the time to execute. So for me, if I'm looking for trade on a daily basis, right, and I see a big pump or big dump has happened, I'm automatically gonna draw the trend in. Okay, trade will be ready in 10 hours, and I go and continue my day. The key here is to trade when the market's ready to give you the trade. If you try force trades, you end up blowing yourself up and you end up tiring your mind and exhausting your mind. Therefore, when the trade is there, you're tired, you've lost money, and you end up losing the trade. Guys, these are simple things that will change your entire trading trajectory, right? This for me, even as I shoot this, I've been doing this now for the last couple of weeks. I've been trading a lot again, okay? And the biggest time I make losses is I trade when the market's not ready for the trade. These trend lines and the timing has changed my entire game. So let's now go through a couple of these examples. Here we go. We have Bitcoin on the 1 hour. Do I want a long? Do I want a short, right? So let's go through the first thing. Where are we right now? Okay, we are basically making a little bit of a flag. So if I put a bottom trend line in, 1, 2, 3 touches. If I put a top trend line in, 1, 2, 3 touches, right? So this one's pretty easy for the day. Okay, I can see we've had a strong push to the upside. I know if we lose this, it's very likely we're coming down here. Okay, and I know if we break this, it's very likely we're pushing up over here, right? So I love these type of trades because it's very simple. Price is crunched up. So what we wait for here is we wait for a break of either trend. Now, if it decides to come down and break this trend and it starts to move down, it's going to give me a nice trend line to track it to the downside. I can short the break over here, put a stop loss above, and track it down. Either it will hit an area of where to take profits, which I'll explain to you guys a little bit later in the video, or it will then bounce, break my trend, and I get out or possibly get into a long. So just by tracking this now, I'm going to allow the market to show me which way it wants to go. So if it breaks the bottom, I know where to put a stop loss and I can track it down. If it breaks the top, I can put a stop loss and then I can move this trend and track it to the upside. So something like this is quite simple, okay? Now let's go through something maybe a little bit more technical. So let's go a little bit higher time frame. I want to now buy this for the week and I look at this now. The first thing that I look at is I see, okay, are we moving in an uptrend? Yes, we are. Let's track that. Let's put in a trend over here to track the original trend, okay? And as you could see, look how it started to speed up. There's the space between the trend. Now guys, when there is space between price and a trend, it's telling you something. It's telling you at any point, this token can come back down to the trend, which is very important. So I tend to not buy tokens that are very far from support because ultimately, if I get it wrong, it can drop all the way to this trend here. That's a big loss. So what I do with this is I look at where is the next trend. And as you could see here, if you track this trend over here, you could see I can find myself a nice little 3-touch trend line. All right. And what I've done now is I say, okay, if I wanted to buy this now, I can just put a stop loss below because I know if I get it wrong, it's coming down here and this is where I can buy it. I also know that I don't have to long. I can wait for it to break the trend and take the actual short. So by looking at this now, I have my original momentum trend. I have the new acceleration trend and I can just wait for the next trend to play out. Now, the next thing is if you look at where did this trade start? Why am I not looking for longs straight away? Because ultimately I missed the longs. So if I look at this here, that is where the trend line broke for the longs. So for now, I'm waiting for the short, or I am waiting for the token to go up, come down, give me a clear trend, and that is where I want to execute. Why it's so important not to chase trades is because if I buy right now, I can either put the tight stop loss, which would be definitely what I would do, or I'd have to put a stop loss down here. And look how much risk that is, right? It's just not worth it. The key to success in trading is to make sure that when you win a lot more than what you lose. Therefore, you can take losses because one win is worth multiple losses. But you need to make sure that your risk is correctly calculated and put in a good area. So this is where I would have taken the long. And ultimately, now I have my bottom trend lines to track it up. And sometimes if it doesn't make sense, Give it a little bit of time, let the story print, let more candles come out, and you will start to see the next story. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fly through a bunch of different tokens. So here is an example of a trade that I'm getting ready to take. It's on a 4-hour time frame, means I'll hold the trade for maybe a day, 2 days. If the money's good, I'm happy, right? But look at this. So right now, am I in this trade? No. But look at the trend line that I found, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches. Beautiful. So as this breaks out over here, I'm looking to put a tight stop loss below, right? Track it up, put my bottom trend in, right? Then if it decides to break the trend, I'll be out. Or the rule that I do with taking profits is taking profits halfway of the range. What that means is this token has come down from $130 all the way down to $80 right now. Okay, so what tends to happen is if a token is ready to go up, it will start moving, but a lot of the times it's actually not ready to go up. So what tends to happen is this will push up and then come back down again. And I don't want to hold a trade that goes into wins and then ultimately come back down. So what I do is the mid-range is where I take profits. If this is the high and this is the low, in the middle is a key area of where I want to get out of the trade. Because what will tend to happen is we'll push up, reject, and then go up again. By me taking profits here, gives me an opportunity to get another long a little bit later on, and it gets me into really good habits of actually taking profits. Now with that, we also have a bottom trend line to track that to the upside. So in case it does not get there, I can catch the weakness and make sure that I exit the position in profits. Now let's go through more. So if I look as example, this token. This token has already started breaking out and I missed the long. If I look at this breakout, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3, 4, 5, 6. When it breaks out, look how it retests and then starts going to the upside. So this is something that I would not be looking to long right now. I've missed it. This does not mean that there's not a trade available though. So what I will do over here is I'll put in the bottom trend lines. There's the first one and the second one is this one over here. And when I see that there is weakness here, it's very likely if it loses this trend, it's going to this one. And that's a perfect setup for me to take. So something like this, if I'm really looking for a trade, I'll just wait to find weakness in this over here. If it breaks here, put a stop loss above, track it down, and I'll take profits halfway of the range. So guys, trend lines are to track trends, show weakness, help you identify patterns, and help you identify where to put your stop losses to keep your risk nice and low. You're not predicting, you're moving with the markets, and you're keeping it very simple. Now, on top of this, guys, Trendlines is not the only tool that I use. So by me explaining this, trading with just Trendlines can work, but you also want to add more to this. And that's why on this channel, I'm going to keep bringing you guys more information. Because for me, I use Trendlines, but then I also use a RSI. Sometimes I'll use some volume. And what this means is I'll take 3 or 4 different indications, and if they're all saying green, take the trade, that's what I will do. But the importance of this video is to show you that a simple tool like this can be very powerful to help you identify, should I hold, should I sell, where should I put a stop loss? It solves a lot of that. And by taking 2 or 3 more tools and putting it together, you are truly setting yourself up a powerful toolbox for trading. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember to keep trading very simple. If you are stuck, watch my shows every day. If you want to learn more, go and do my schools. But the biggest lesson that I've learned on this entire journey is you need to find something that works for you. If this is something that works for you, amazing. Work on it, get good at drawing trend lines, but at least you know where to put your focus. Guys, lots of love. Thank you for watching. Till next time. None of this is financial advice. This is my personal education that I've learned on the journey. And by you seeing me do things for myself, I'm pretty sure you're going to learn a lot on this journey.